Hold on. Everybody stop what you are doing right now. Sit down, lock in, and pay attention, because what just surfaced is not a rumor, not speculation, not somebody on the internet running their mouth. This is tangible, photographed, documented verification that Kendrick Lamar has quietly assembled a cultural apparatus so enormous that every single person who ever positioned themselves against him is currently staring at the wreckage of their own miscalculation. Baby Keem, blood relative, protege, the crown jewel of the pgLang roster, just performed at an Adidas activation in downtown Los Angeles, where exclusive FIFA World Cup 2026 merchandise was physically distributed to attendees, and stamped directly onto that merchandise alongside the Adidas trefoil and the FIFA insignia were markings that trace straight back to Kendrick's operation. Now listen, if you are tuned in and ready to absorb the full scope of what this verification unleashes for Kendrick, for pgLang, for the entire trajectory of hip-hop colliding with global athletics and institutional prestige, then do me the absolute favor of crushing that like button, locking in your subscription, and activating every single notification, because I am telling you right now, what we are about to dismantle, piece by piece, is legitimately one of the most staggering convergences of music, power, and planetary scale ambition that this generation has ever witnessed, and I am not inflating a single syllable of that statement. So let us trace the architecture from the ground floor, because the sheer brilliance of what this man engineered was never accidental and never rushed. This was a fortress assembled silently while the rest of the industry was consumed by distractions and courtroom theatrics. Now take this in. Rewind all the way back to November 2023. That is the genesis point. pgLang, the creative headquarters that Kendrick co-pilots with Dave Free, formalized a collaboration with Global Citizen, the exact humanitarian powerhouse that FIFA would later recruit to orchestrate the inaugural halftime spectacle at a World Cup final. Think about that timing for a second. Kendrick was shaking hands with Global Citizen before anyone on the planet even knew that FIFA was considering a halftime tradition. He stood on that platform in Kigali, Rwanda, December 6th of that year, commanding the first ever Move Africa stage, planting a flag across an entire continent while his rivals were occupied filing paperwork in courtrooms. pgLang secured a 5-year curatorial appointment for Move Africa, stretching from 2023 all the way through 2028, meaning Kendrick's creative infrastructure was contractually woven into the Global Citizen framework for half a decade before the World Cup dialogue surfaced in any public forum. 5 years. Let that number breathe for a moment. That is not some manager calling in favors for a quick brand alignment. That is an institutional investment, signaling someone operating at a geopolitical entertainment altitude that nobody in this genre has ever attempted to reach. But hold on, let me show you how this expanded, because every single expansion was deliberate. After Rwanda, Move Africa stretched into Ghana throughout 2024 and then scaled further into Kigali and Pretoria by 2026, attracting marquee international talent and constructing a Pan-African touring ecosystem that simply did not exist at this magnitude before Kendrick's operation built it. So when FIFA leadership sat around debating who possessed the proven infrastructure and global cultural authority to curate a halftime experience worthy of the largest athletic congregation on earth, the answer was not some theoretical slide deck from an agent begging for consideration. The answer was already physically operational across multiple African nations, with pgLang's architectural imprint embedded in every partnership agreement and every stage blueprint. Kendrick did not submit an application for this platform. He manufactured the gravitational conditions that made the platform arrive at his doorstep. Now here is where the accelerant detonated everything into an irreversible chain reaction. And if you were breathing on that particular evening, you already know precisely what unfolded. February 9th, 2025. Kendrick commandeered the Super Bowl LINX halftime platform and delivered what the official record books now classify as the most observed halftime spectacle in the complete annals of that event. 133 million human beings locked onto screens, simultaneously absorbing a performance that was not merely a concert, but a seismic cultural rupture that sent shockwaves through every institution monitoring that broadcast. He blazed through the catalog, demolished DNA, swimming pools, humble, and then, in what historians will eventually recognize as the most brazen triumph declaration in the chronicle of live performance, he executed Not Like Us on the most colossal stage American television has ever erected for a solitary artist. 133 million witnesses to a simultaneous celebration and annihilation. The sheer audacity would have been sufficient to cement that moment in perpetuity, but the aftershocks are what elevated it into a tectonic shift, because FIFA president Gianni Infantino observed what Kendrick accomplished, and within weeks, on March 4th of that identical year, announced that the 2026 World Cup final would host a halftime spectacle for the first time in the tournament's century-spanning existence. Infantino declared publicly that this would constitute a historic occasion befitting the grandest athletic assembly on the globe. Let me say that one more time so it actually registers. Kendrick Lamar's performance was so transcendent that it birthed an entirely new tradition for international football. He did not occupy a vacancy that already existed. He generated one, because the governing body of the planet's most popular sport recognized their own spectacle was incomplete without that caliber of artistic voltage. And this is where the blueprint becomes irrefutable, because the corridor was already constructed before the Super Bowl stage lights even cooled. pgLang had Global Citizen. Global Citizen had FIFA. FIFA now required a halftime architect with demonstrated global reach and cultural credibility. Every pathway converged at the identical destination, and Kendrick was already stationed at the terminus of each one, with the documentation, the alliances, and the operational resume to validate his positioning. This was not fortune. This was a masterwork in calculated placement, because Kendrick charted a 3-year sequence of maneuvers that situated his apparatus at the precise juncture where athletics, entertainment, and institutional authority intersect. And he executed it with such discretion that nobody identified the schematic until the structure was already erected and occupied. Now let me pivot to the verification itself, because this is the fragment that converts conjecture into cemented reality. Baby Keem, who has been ascending as one of the most formidable emerging forces across the entire genre, performed at the Adidas 3 Lanes activation on March 19, 2026, inside the Lower Grand Tunnel in downtown Los Angeles. This was not some casual promotional slot or a random booking. This was an invitation-only spectacle produced by Project 3 in coordination with Adidas, where the away World Cup kits from Mexico, Argentina, Germany, and additional national squads were unveiled to the world. Keem shared that platform alongside K-Tronada, and the entire production shut down a Los Angeles highway to accommodate one of the most visually commanding live presentations of the year. But listen closely, because here is the detail that obliterates every remaining shred of skepticism. The keychain distributed at this activation displays both the 3 Lanes event insignia and directly beneath it the words FIFA World Cup 2026 rendered in unmistakable clarity. pgLang's flagship artist performing at a FIFA World Cup kit unveiling with physical artifacts confirming the institutional linkage is not gossip. It is documented, photographic, hold-it-in-your-hand verification that Kendrick Lamar's creative empire is formally interlaced with the fabric of the most-watched athletic competition in human civilization. And for those with the sharpest eyes, there is one additional fragment on that keychain that observers identified near the Adidas emblem and FIFA inscription, a marking that appears to spell K. The alias Kendrick has carried since the Compton Avenues first sculpted him. If that is indeed what adorns that artifact, it is not merely a brand identifier, it is an enthronement seal, concealed in plain view on a souvenir most individuals would have dismissed, and it communicates the embedded authority that Kendrick's operation has achieved within this ecosystem. They are not guests, they are structural engineers.
But to genuinely grasp the enormity of where Kendrick now resides, you have to comprehend what was simultaneously disintegrating on the opposing end of this narrative. Because while Kendrick was quietly constructing a transcontinental entertainment infrastructure and delivering historically unmatched performances, the individual who cast himself as Kendrick's principal antagonist was orchestrating his own catastrophic implosion in the most public and humiliating manner conceivable. Aubrey Drake Graham, after being methodically dismantled by Not Like Us, a composition that accused him of profoundly unsettling conduct and proceeded to become the cultural anthem of an entire generation, did not respond with elevated artistry. He did not ascend. He did not evolve or exhibit any capacity for creative resurrection. Instead, he grasped for the most desperate instrument available to someone thoroughly outclassed on the battlefield he himself demanded. He initiated a defamation action against Universal Music Group, his own distributor, alleging they conspired to artificially inflate Kendrick's composition through covert financial arrangements. It was the judicial equivalent of a combatant knocked unconscious filing a grievance against the referee instead of preparing for the rematch. The entire industry watched as one of the largest commercial names in rap history conceded through legal filings that he could not compete on artistic merit and required a courtroom to salvage what the microphone could not. And the judicial system responded with the kind of decisive finality that eliminates all ambiguity. On October 9, 2025, United States District Judge Jeanette Vargas dismissed the complaint in its entirety, ruling that Kendrick's lyrical substance constituted protected expression and non-actionable opinion that could not satisfy the legal threshold for defamation under any reasonable interpretation. The case was not remanded for adjustment, it was not partially upheld, it was eradicated. And Universal Music Group's reaction in the aftermath was so lacerating that it deserves permanent preservation in the archive of this saga, because their official declaration stated that from the inception, this action was an affront to all artists and their creative expression and never should have seen the light of day. But the filing that preceded the dismissal contained language even more devastating, because UMG's legal team wrote in court documents that the plaintiff lost a rap confrontation that he provoked and in which he willingly participated, and instead of accepting that outcome like the unbothered lyricist he often claims to be, he has sued his own label. His own label, the corporation that distributes his catalog, that profits from his streaming metrics, that possesses a direct financial incentive to shield his reputation, examined the evidence and concluded publicly in a federal court submission that their own client was outmatched from the outset, that he initiated the confrontation, and that his litigation was a pitiable attempt to medicate wounds that were entirely self-created. There is no rehabilitation from that. There is no communication strategy sophisticated enough to reframe a moment where your own commercial partner tells a federal magistrate that you were defeated and you were being absurd about it. And then materialized what might be the most delusional chapter in this entire unraveling. Because after Kendrick's Super Bowl obliteration of the cultural conversation, a faction of remaining loyalists began circulating the fantasy that the opposition would somehow capture the World Cup halftime platform because it carries more international resonance. FIFA President Infantino was even questioned about the possibility during a televised appearance where the host floated the suggestion, and Infantino responded with amusement, joking about manufacturing a rivalry. That camp seized upon a television personality's casual aside as though it were a formal booking confirmation, amplifying it across every digital channel as evidence that their artist was still in contention for the planet's grandest platforms. But here is the annihilating reality that none of those supporters bothered to investigate before embarrassing themselves publicly. pgLang and Global Citizen had been operating as institutional collaborators since 2023. The infrastructure connecting Kendrick's operation to the FIFA ecosystem had been under construction for years before that television segment even aired. One side was clinging to a throwaway remark from a broadcast personality, while the other side was embedded in the organizational architecture where actual World Cup programming decisions are formulated and executed. It is the gulf between receiving a formal mandate to govern and overhearing someone whisper your name in a corridor. One carries institutional weight, the other carries delusion.
And when we widen the aperture to survey the complete competitive terrain between these two figures, the disparity is so grotesque that calling it a rivalry at this juncture borders on comedic. Kendrick delivered the most observed halftime presentation in Super Bowl history, with 133 million simultaneous viewers. The opposition has never even been extended the invitation. Kendrick's creative label is now verified as an operational participant within the FIFA World Cup 2026 infrastructure through Keem's presence and the physical artifacts from the 3 Lanes activation. The opposition possesses nothing beyond a talk show host's offhand comment. Kendrick has accumulated more Grammy accolades than any rapper who has ever existed, with 26 career triumphs, including an unprecedented sweep, where Not Like Us alone captured Record of the Year, Song of the Year, Best Rap Song, Best Rap Performance, and Best Music Video in a singular ceremony. The opposition remains a perpetual nominee whose trophy collection tells a narrative of acknowledgement without coronation. Kendrick's GNX album detonated at the apex of every chart that matters, with 319,000 first-week units and a monopolization of the complete top 5 positions on the Hot 100 simultaneously. The opposition produced no comparable artistic rebuttal. Kendrick holds a 5-year curatorial appointment with Move Africa and a formal alliance with Global Citizen spanning continents. The opposition's global strategy consists of social media commentary and retrospective playlist assembly. And perhaps most emblematically, Kendrick remains the sole rapper and the first non-classical, non-jazz musician in history to receive the Pulitzer Prize for Music, a distinction so singular that it exists in a category of achievement the opposition cannot access, regardless of commercial output, because it demands artistic merit evaluated by the most exacting cultural institution in American letters. The judicial records alone narrate a devastating story of divergence. Kendrick's public dossier is immaculate. The opposition sued his own label over a lyrical confrontation he instigated and was defeated. Not defeated narrowly, defeated so comprehensively that the presiding judge dismissed the action, and his own distributor used the proceedings as an occasion to publicly affirm that he was outmatched from the genesis. Every measurement, every institution, every platform, every honor, every alliance, and every legal outcome points in a single unified direction, and it is not a direction that offers any solace to the other side. But what elevates this entire saga beyond the boundaries of a mere artistic contest is the strategic patience that Kendrick exhibited throughout every phase of this orchestration. He did not chase the World Cup. He did not submit proposals or leverage celebrity adjacency to manufacture proximity to the opportunity. He invested 3 years of operational dedication into a Pan-African touring initiative that organically positioned his creative infrastructure at the precise nexus where FIFA's ambitions and Global Citizen's capabilities intersected. He delivered a Super Bowl performance of such overwhelming cultural magnitude that it compelled an international governing body to create an entirely new tradition in response. His label was already collaborating with Adidas on World Cup kit activations, while the opposing camp was still sharing clips of a talk show host mentioning a name. Every single development that has materialized over the past several months was not a reaction to circumstances. It was the predetermined result of a strategic vision that Kendrick set into motion years before any of these dominoes began to topple publicly. And so, when Baby Keem stood inside that lower Grand Tunnel on March 19th, performing for an audience that held in their hands physical evidence linking pgLang to the FIFA World Cup, what the world witnessed was not a surprise. It was the scheduled arrival of an outcome that was engineered with the precision of someone who understands that genuine supremacy is not proclaimed through volume or spectacle or litigation or digital posturing. It is constructed through years of quiet, deliberate, strategic action that positions you so deeply within the infrastructure of opportunity that by the time anyone recognizes your presence, removing you would require dismantling the entire apparatus. That is where Kendrick sits today. Not as a participant in the World Cup conversation, not as a candidate or a contender, but as someone whose operational fingerprints are already embedded within the institutional framework itself, and whose creative empire extends from Compton to Kigali, to the Super Bowl stage, to what will almost certainly culminate at MetLife Stadium on July 19, 2026, when the gaze of the entire planet converges on a single event, and Kendrick's name is woven into the fabric of the spectacle.
The opposition is filing dismissed lawsuits. They are grasping at televised sound bites as evidence of relevance. They are observing from an ever-expanding distance as the platforms grow larger, the institutions grow more prestigious, and the chasm between aspiration and accomplishment widens into a void that no volume of commercial success or digital maneuvering can bridge. Because Kendrick is no longer operating within the competitive framework of hip-hop, he has transcended it entirely. He is functioning at an echelon where his peers are not other lyricists, but cultural institutions themselves.
And those institutions are collaborating with him because they recognize what his detractors have spent years failing to accept. There is a frequency of artistry and strategic intelligence that only one individual in this era operates on, and every platform that matters has already aligned itself accordingly. The courtrooms confirmed it, the Grammys confirmed it, the Pulitzer confirmed it, the Super Bowl confirmed it, the streaming figures confirmed it, and now the FIFA World Cup has confirmed it. Every arena, every governing body that possesses the authority to distinguish excellence from adequacy has arrived at the identical conclusion, and those who wagered against it are scattered across dismissed legal complaints, unrealized fantasies, and a diminishing relevance that accelerates with every new platform Kendrick claims. This is not a contest any longer. This has not been a contest for quite some time. What we are witnessing is an enthronement that has been unfolding in stages across years, and each new revelation merely adds another gem to a crown that was forged long before anyone understood the ceremony had already commenced. Kendrick governs. He does not petition. He does not request. He constructs the architecture, occupies the infrastructure, delivers the performance, and allows the institutions to announce what he already knew. And the World Cup is simply the latest institution to arrive at the recognition that every other institution of significance has already reached. They are not comparable to him. They have never operated at this frequency. And by the time MetLife Stadium hosts the culmination of the most watched athletic event on this planet, the question will not be whether Kendrick belongs on that platform. The question will be whether the platform is grand enough for what Kendrick intends to deliver. Because if history has taught us anything about this individual, it is that every stage he touches is permanently elevated by his presence, and every rival who positioned themselves in opposition to his ascent has been systematically reduced to a cautionary footnote in his expanding mythology. Undisputed, unchallenged, unmatched, and the entire world is about to witness the next chapter at the grandest platform civilization has ever constructed for a single athletic event. So now, with all of that unpacked, I genuinely need to hear from you. Drop your perspective in the comments right now. How monumental is this verification for Kendrick and the entire pgLang operation? Do you believe the halftime platform at MetLife is already locked, or is there another revelation still waiting to surface? And for those who genuinely believed the opposition had any realistic pathway to the World Cup stage, what exactly was the argument? Because from where the evidence stands, there was never a competition to begin with. Sound off below, because this conversation is about to be absolutely electric. And if you absorbed everything in this breakdown and you are still here, do me the favor of hammering that like and making sure you are subscribed, because the developments surrounding Kendrick and the World Cup are only going to intensify from this point forward, and you are going to want to be locked in for every single update. And if you want to understand how the Super Bowl performance that ignited this entire chain reaction permanently reshaped the entertainment landscape and left every institution scrambling to align with Kendrick's orbit, you are absolutely going to want to see what we covered right here. So tap that suggested content immediately, because trust me, after what you just absorbed, the context in that breakdown is going to make everything connect on an entirely different wavelength.